Have you ever wondered what marriage life is like after sexual abuse? Well, that is what my next guest is here to talk about. So if you don't know the story, we have 2 episodes on our YouTube channel, so you can go ahead and check it out. But our guest, Zybel, is here to talk about marriage life after sexual abuse. So her story, just a quick summary, she was sexually abused by her father for the better part of her childhood. That went on for a long time. And through the help of God and being able to apply forgiveness, she was able to move forward. She actually wrote a book, and that's part of her story. So she is here to talk about that today. Hey, what's going on, guys? I'm JR. Welcome back to another episode of 2.0. I'm so glad you've decided to join us for another episode. If you are part of the 2.0 family, I'm glad to have you back. But if you're just strolling by and you're checking out to see what we're all about, I want to extend the invitation to you right now to go ahead and click the subscribe button and become part of the 2.0 family. And don't forget, hit the notification bell so that every time we drop an episode, you, my friend, will be notified to come and check it out. Well, if you're just tuning in and you're just joining us, we are here. We're going to be talking about what marriage life looks like after sexual abuse. So in order to discuss this topic, please help me welcome back to the studio our friend Zybel Torres and her husband, Joey. What's going on, guys?
Hi, how you doing?
Thanks for having us.
My pleasure, Zybel. Welcome back to the 2.0 studio.
Oh, thanks. It's good to be back.
All right, good to have you, Joey. I should say welcome back too, because the first time you were here,
I was in the background.
Yeah, you weren't on camera, but you were here, man. So welcome back. Now you're in the hot seat.
Yeah.
But thank you so much for accepting the call to be part of this discussion, or to be vulnerable enough to share your story. So Zybel, let me start with you. What has the responses been ever since you were on the show with the sharing your story?
So when we did the first episode, I actually got a lot of emails and a lot of text messages.
Nice.
But the ones that really stood out to me were the ones who actually had a problem with the episode. Or like, for example, I had one woman who actually wrote all over, like when I had shared the social media link, she had written underneath it that she wasn't even going to bother to watch the episode.
Really?
Because she was really... she made a comment along the lines like, I would never forgive that, and so I never would watch something like that.
Wow.
And so those are the ones that I remember the most. Like, there was, of course, a lot of support, a lot of positive feedback, but she's the one that I tried to engage in conversation, and she just kind of like ghosted me after that.
Man.
But there was a few people who had just some comments about how it triggered them or it hurt them. A lot of people saw the episode and felt like, wow, I need to know more. And of course, some people reached out and said, how do I get a copy of the book?
Wow.
So it was a lot of good feedback.
Yeah.
But of course, it's always the ones that because those are the people I'm trying to reach, right?
Yeah.
The ones that I want them to get their recovery.
Yeah.
So those are the ones that I remember, the ones that kind of left those types of comments.
Yeah.
And I think there was like maybe about 3. It
Gotcha.
wasn't a lot, but
Yeah,
the ones that resonate.
I can understand, it is a tough pill to swallow, right? Because, it wasn't just a stranger. It wasn't somebody that you barely known, right? But it's somebody that you could have, would have considered your closest ally, right? Your protector, your provider. And that's what happened. So you can understand why somebody will feel the way that they feel.
Oh, yeah, no, absolutely. So just a few days ago, I was watching a video of a gentleman he actually tried to rape someone and had like this wake-up call.
Wow.
And of course, he's telling this story like 30 years after the fact,
yeah.
right? And he was sharing the story, but he said something very insightful that kind of stayed with me. He said, think about all the number of cases that are out there, and then think about the numbers of those that go unreported, such as mine,
right?
That go unreported. He said, now think about if you incarcerate every single one of those cases, the ones that go unreported and the ones that go reported.
Right.
He said our economy would go bankrupt just trying to feed the people in prison. And I was like, wow.
That is crazy.
Because the statistics, because most of these cases go unreported, right? And so you have, I mean, I know that, I don't even know, I know the rates are pretty staggering. It's like for like 7 out of 10 women in a room have been sexually abused at some point of their life, whether
Wow.
it be from a family friend,
Yeah.
a sibling, a cousin, at a youth camp, or, you know, or rape, college, date rape,
Yeah.
but a lot of them go unreported, you know,
Yeah.
and very few of them actually are reported.
Right.
So it's kind of like, I don't know. These are the things that these are the people that I'm trying to reach.
Gotcha.
You know.
Yeah.
So,
Which, you know what, I'm glad because, you know, in one way or another, it actually opened up conversations, right?
Yeah.
Started conversations. It got people to think and also to talk about it. So I think that's a part of the, you know, that was part of the goal, right?
yeah. Yeah,
Awesome.
no, absolutely. It was part of the goal, and the conversations are rolling, so it's really great.
Awesome. Yeah. I just hope that, you know, it's going to continue. You know, the good thing is the episode is out there on, you know, on YouTube, so people can always watch it. I'm sure new people will come upon it, and it's going to continue to trigger more conversations. So that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh,
So Joey, you're in the house, you know,
Yeah.
welcome. So
Thank you.
one of the things that I wanted to talk about, just like we mentioned in the introduction, right? And it's what is marriage life look like after sexual abuse? You know, we hear the story. We heard Zybel's story. You know, it was pretty. It was pretty brutal to listen through, but. It's like I'd like to, you know, to see it from your perspective as a husband. What is it like, you know, dealing? And when I say dealing, I'm not saying dealing in a bad way, right? What is it? Yeah. What
I
is
can
what
be
is
difficult.
what is the experience like, you know, working or doing life with a partner who experienced such a tragic thing?
Well, I guess we gotta put a timeline into everything because I guess everyone's experience is different.
Yeah.
So when I met Cybele, this was years after the experience that she
Right.
had.
Yeah.
So the person that she was is what drawed me in.
Okay.
You know, she was very strong, and mind you, I didn't know what her history was at that time. So, you know, I was attracted to her brain, the way she was.
Okay.
So when we first got married, she opened up, she shared, and slowly but surely, she gave me a little bit more, you know, a little more trust, a little more vulnerability.
Okay.
And so I think that, and tell me if I'm wrong, but once something like that happens to you, everything that happens after that, you always have to question, would I react like this if that never happened? So you're always second guessing things, you
Right.
know, like 5 years, 10 years down
Yeah.
the line, 15 years, something happens, you respond in a certain way, and then you're like, you know, would my life look like this if that did? You know, you're always second guessing your life because
Yeah.
now that happened, you can't take that back.
Right.
So your life is you're always questioning, you know, would my approach be like this? Would my and also your decision making from then forth
Yeah.
changes because now you have. I mean, everyone is it's nurture or nature, right? Are you who you are because of your experiences, or
Right.
so? You know, your decisions. Every decision you make changes the course of your life, right? So if that didn't happen, how far off the path that you would have been?
Yeah.
So when I met her, the paths of her life molded her to the person that I fell in love with. You know what I mean? So if it didn't happen, if she was
Yeah.
different, if her personality was different,
Right.
because when I met her, I mean, incredibly independent, you know, and just strong. You know, she had this strong will about her. You
Okay.
know, and these are things these are qualities that I'm drawn to, because a lot of these qualities I saw firsthand in my mother.
Okay.
You know what I mean? And,
Right.
and we joke around because nobody wants to hear, oh, you know, you're
just like my mom.
You're just like my mom. Yeah. That's like in this culture, it's like, oh gosh, that's a 4-letter word.
Right.
But in reality, you know, she's the strength.
Yeah.
You know, now my mother was a single mother since I was, about 4 years old. She didn't remarry till I was in my early 20s.
Okay.
So and she did that purposefully because, you know, we were her first priority.
Okay.
So the strength that my mother had, I recognized in her. And I think she briefly talked about our story before, but we were friends for many years before we got married.
Gotcha.
So
did you know the full extent of the abuse before you guys got married, or?
Yeah. Like things still come up.
Okay.
And there's patches in her past that she doesn't quite remember.
Okay.
So things come up, you know, in her day-to-day life, but for the most part, yeah, we've talked about it.
Yeah.
And I know what she's gone through, and I know. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, so as you were talking, you triggered a memory of a story. But I think the success, what brings us to a point of managing our relationship somewhat successfully, because really all of that goes credit to God. But and we're both very Christ-centered with everything, but communication is like super key. And this is one of the things that most women don't want to talk about, right? Because it almost feels like, so for example, you know, I was married before, I was divorced, and then I was single for like 10 years before I got married with Joey, and he was my friend during that time frame.
Okay.
But one of the things that I in my previous relationship was thrown in my face was like, oh, you're like this because of this, you know?
Yeah.
And so when I got married again, of course there could have been that mindset, like, I don't want to take that route again.
Right. Yeah.
But I did recognize he's not my ex.
Right.
And then also on top of that is the fact that I want to do things right. And I need to be transparent, because I could be the problem at some times,
Right.
and I need him to know how to navigate that. So for example, when we first got engaged, you remember the New Year's? Can I tell that story about the New Year's? Or the New Year's when we got engaged?
Was it New Year's though? But go ahead.
Or was it New Year's? It could have been Christmas. It could have been Christmas. I know it was a holiday. I know it was snowing outside.
Oh, wow.
It was really, really cold. But we were at a party and we were celebrating something. And
Okay.
someone gave him something to drink. And he had like one drink, but it was like this really potent drink. And he had gotten so tipsy, like just
Wow.
really bad. And I had to drive home that night. And he was totally responsible.
Yeah.
He was kind. He did say it was way too much.
Right.
I can't handle this.
Yeah.
And then he was over the moon giddy, over the moon giddy. And I am used to like drunkenness would lead to something really, really bad.
Bad. Okay. Wow.
And so now he's coming home. And this is my first experience with him in that state.
Okay.
And he's never repeated it since then. But that one particular instance, when we got home, he got so sick.
Wow.
And I had gotten, like, we were living in separate apartments, but I brought him to my house because he was in no condition
almost out
to
of it, yeah.
drive. And so when we got to the house, and I was just helping him, there was one moment where he stood there and he grabbed my hands, and from his perspective, it would have been like the most loving
Thing,
experience ever, where he's holding me. He's like, "Are you ready for the rest of our lives together?" And he had this smell that was so recognizable.
Yeah.
And for me, all the alarms went off in my body.
Yeah.
And I was, next day, I don't want to be with you.
Right.
I can't be with you.
So you were triggered at that
I
point.
was so triggered, and he did nothing wrong. A matter of fact, he hugged me after that, and I was like, and I was already in like self-preservation mode.
Yeah.
Like, don't argue, don't do anything, just put him in the other room, stay far away, close the door, lock the door. You know, like I was already thinking of it, but it wasn't even, he did nothing wrong. But in that moment, and so the next day, like he was trying to figure out like what he did wrong. He couldn't figure out, you know, and I was just disconnected, and we weren't married yet. We were just engaged.
Okay.
But I was ready to call off the whole thing.
Yeah.
And so it took me some time to gain the nerve to sit down at the table and explain, this smell triggered me.
Gotcha.
This, you know, this is what happened. And he loves me so much that he was like, oh, I get it. But that was so hard for me to sit at the table and to rehash all of that again and figure out a way to not attack him.
Right. And you know what, it's important that you shared that, because as you said, communication is extremely important, right? I think this is a perfect example, because it's almost like no one is wrong in this scenario, right? So your reaction is not wrong, and his action towards you is not wrong either. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But it's like you reacted based on your previous and past experience. But he's coming to you in a state of tipsiness, but he still wants to reassure you that, you know, he loves you and he still wants to spend the rest of his life with you, right? And then he's looking at it as, well, this is like a moment, well, you would consider like for better or for worse, right? So he's looking at it like, you know, that way, and he's trying to reassure you that, listen, you know, we're in this for the long haul. But at the same time, you're responding to your trauma. You're like, no, I've been there before. I remember the smell. I remember the physical tension, because, you know, he grabbed you, and then it literally just threw you back to what you went through, and that is the reason why you reacted the way you did. But
then it was still difficult to navigate though, because I mean, it's not fair for me to okay, so now I unhash this in front of him, and now he's got to tiptoe and dance around my triggers. That's not fair to do. So now this is something, okay, I bring it to you, but now I have to own that this is my problem. I'm the problem. You know, like that's the hard pill to swallow.
Right.
I am the problem, and I could potentially damage this relationship.
The big thing about what she just said is she took inventory.
Yeah.
And I don't know if your audience registered how big that is.
Oh yeah.
In this culture, everyone sees the problem externally. You know.
Yeah.
Offense is running rampant at this point.
Yeah.
So she took the time and said, "Wait a minute. You know, I'm looking at it through my eyes. There's other people involved. You know, let me have an open, open mind to what's going on." So her doing that is one of the things that makes this work. But it's not a one-way thing. So I know we're talking about marriage after sexual abuse. But the thing is, I have a history as well. You know what I mean? So I'm not a blank slate coming into this and getting tarnished by her history. I come with my own set of problems.
Your own baggage,
So you know, let all cards on the table. When I brought the idea of getting married to her, I think she had more reservations than I had. You understand what I'm saying? Because I just didn't have a great
Reputation. Okay.
You know, my reputation was already, you know, I had a bad reputation. Not terrible, but you know,
with the ladies.
It wasn't.
It was bad.
It wasn't anything that
He said it was bad.
that anybody, you know, was looking for in a husband.
Okay.
You know what I mean? It's just, you know, I had that little playboy type of reputation.
Yeah.
So when I came to the table, you know, you have the, what is it, the seeker and settler? No, not the seeker. What is
Seeker
it?
and settler.
No, the reacher and
Oh, the reacher.
Yeah. So you know, I felt like for one, I knew. Interesting story. I knew that I wanted to be in this. I was totally vested in this relationship. Mind you, I didn't know what was going on.
Right.
We haven't seen each other in a while at this point. So I reached out and, you know, so I'm telling her, I'm like, you know, give me a shot. So this was my mentality at that time.
Yeah.
So fast forward, you know, honeymoon story, we get married, blah, blah, blah. So many years later, I'm very different than I was when we got married.
Okay.
You know what I mean? When I had a lot of learning, I made a lot of mistakes because, you know, she tells that story about me getting tipsy. I could say I was beyond tipsy, but before her,
I was being
you know,
pelican.
I had but before her, you got to understand my life.
Right.
I wasn't accountable to any one woman.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Okay.
So I would go out, you know, and it was, you know, it was bachelor life.
Yeah.
You know, it was bars, clubs, you know, and that had just been my life for so long.
Yeah.
That it was almost weird not to
do it.
Not to be that way, because I didn't know what life looked like without all that.
So it's the weekend and I'm not going anywhere.
Exactly. It was like, you know, social lubrication. You know, you go out, you know, you're laughing more, you're engaged more.
Exactly.
You know, you're in that environment. So now I'm married. You know, I'm almost have to wean off of bachelor life.
Yeah.
And because it was so abrupt when the idea of marrying Zai, unbeknownst to her, when that idea came, that when that seed was planted, there was no going back. You know, so so I called her and I laid everything on the table. Like I was all in at that
he
point.
caught me by surprise.
And I blindsided her. She was like, "Whoa, I need a second to think about this." Like, man.
Yeah, because he wasn't asking me out. Like, he was asking me out, but like
But
he was
with the
way he
intention.
presented it. He was like,
okay.
"Listen, I know who you are,
Yeah.
and I'm not asking you out just to ask you out. I have every intention of starting the courting process to make you my wife." And I was like,
that's exactly
whoa.
how I asked her
Whoa.
to date me. Yeah.
I was like, "Whoa."
He wasn't playing.
Yeah.
Joey wasn't
Yeah,
playing.
and it threw me back. I was like, "Whoa."
Joey was the man with a plan, you know?
But now to go farther back, right? There's a lot of men out there that aren't ready to be in a relationship, whether they're, you know, 20, 30, 50.
Yeah.
Some of them, they don't have what it takes to have that partnership, right? For whatever reason, you know, mommy issues, you know, whatever the case, you know, machismo, you know, too much testosterone, whatever the case, they can't see themselves in a partnership. You know, some of them have that king mentality. They need, you know, they need to be waited on hand and foot, you know, kiss the ground that I walk on, whatever the case. But because my mother had set such a foundation, I think that in my life, just like I said before, every decision you make changes you.
Yeah.
So I came from way on the other side of the tracks. You know, like she grew up and, you know, church was really foundational in her life.
Yeah.
You know, she deviated a little, but she always found that foundation where when I was little and I came up, I couldn't. Like my mom said, listen, 18, you can make your own decisions, but until then, you're going to church. And then when 18 hit, I was like, man, I'm out.
You out.
So yeah, so I always, one thing my mother did was she instilled the love of Christ in my heart as a small child.
Yeah.
So I always had the love of Christ, but it was the tradition, the religious tradition that I
couldn't bear.
Yeah, and so I got out. I always had that love of Christ, and I always was a seeker. I always was a seeker at heart. So fast forward, I think that the foundation for being a good man, a good partner, was already there.
Yeah.
So like she said, like things that I did triggered her, because she's expecting my reactions to be different.
Of course. Yeah.
You know, now I'm drunk.
Yeah, she's expecting
in her life. Yeah, she had a pattern.
Yeah.
So people would get drunk, they would get aggressive, they would be overbearing, abrupt, things like that, and that wasn't my personality. You know, not that I'm still doing something wrong.
Yeah.
But my personality wasn't her experience.
The expectation.
Yeah. So that worked its way into us working. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then when she got triggered in the beginning,
right,
she would lash out, but not, she would sense things are going wrong, and she would make it known, like, this is, and in my mind, I'm like, but this is every weekend,
right.
Like, what do you mean there's a problem? This is my life. So, there was growing pains.
Okay.
Yeah.
But we worked through the growing pains.
Yeah.
And it's funny because everyone's like, oh yeah, the first year is always a honeymoon, and then 7-year itch, and they tell you all this.
Right.
And I remember even before I got married, when I was proposing that I want to get married, and at work, and people didn't know Zybel, the people at work that were married were like, oh my goodness, you're gonna, you're signing your life away. Why do that? That's terrible. I've been married for 30 years. I can't wait to get away from my, things like that. And so the culture doesn't help because the idea of marriage is being attacked by our culture.
Right. Yeah. Unfortunately.
So I think and everyone, at least when I was young, every man was tasked to be like the machoest of macho men.
Right.
You know what I mean? Your purpose in life was to your body count was a gazillion.
Yeah.
But then when you expected to get married, you wanted the one you married to
be a virgin.
To be yours and not be sullied by. Where are these women? I don't understand.
I know. I mean, that's unfortunately. It's like that's how we were. That's how we were grew up, right? They taught us that we had to be, as men, we had to be lion, right? Conquerors, just conquer as many as you can. You know? But in actuality, it's like that's not really the case, and it actually screws you up, right? Because when it comes time for you to enter a relationship, and now you're like, oh, what do you mean I can't do that anymore, or I'm not supposed to be doing that anymore, and I think that was your case, and that's what you had to grow from, right?
Exactly. So fast forward again, my mother gave me the idea of what a partner should be.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Such a a strong woman, a faith-centered woman. So when I found Zybel, it wasn't like she had already checked so many boxes.
Yeah.
I mean, she wasn't perfect, and by far I wasn't perfect, but the foundation was set.
Okay.
So we had a good foundation. And like I said, people were like, oh yeah, once the honeymoon is over, it's going to be terrible. 7-year itch.
Yeah.
We're 10 years in.
Nice.
And I'll speak for myself. I am just as happy, if not more happy now with our relationship than I was when we got
Yeah.
married. Like I'm still like I still can't. This is my
Yeah.
best friend still.
I can see it. I mean, you guys are cozied up right now. 10 years after later.
No,
so
but
that's-
he is really
that's
not
awesome.
the same person though.
Yeah,
Like, from
yeah.
the beginning,
I
like the
did a lot of
transformation
growing.
is unreal. And even when he came along, like I didn't really think, like I really kind of. Like when he approached me and gave me that whole asking me out, I shut it down. I was
Yeah.
like, no,
Yeah.
rejected him. And I felt so bad because he was trying to reach me and I was blocking him. He was even leaving comments on my YouTube link. Like, hey, you know, like too soon. But he, like I really had prayed to God about it. And I really had, at this point in my life, I couldn't really trust my own judgment.
Okay.
Like I had a track record of always falling for the wrong type of guy.
Okay.
And so I was like, I really can't do this. I have made so many
many
messes. Like I would need a message from God that you're the one in order for me to date you.
Yeah.
And that's exactly how it happened.
Wow.
You know, like someone had come to me at church and gave me a word that my husband was around the corner. But then that was like one of those things like everybody says that to every single person in the church.
Every single
it's like as
person,
soon
yeah.
as people find out you're single, you're getting
Yep,
a
like,
prophetic word that your
every-
husband is around
Yep,
the corner.
Yep.
You know, so
God is working on him. Yeah.
but someone came and it wasn't even the way they had approached me. It wasn't someone from my church. It was somebody that I went to go visit another church.
Okay.
And they saw me and they looked for my social media and then they sent me a message on my social media saying,
Wow.
hey, God told me to tell you this,
Yeah.
that something's coming.
Right.
And then, and I didn't think nothing of it because I was like, you know, it was just one of those things that I was like, another word that I'm
Yeah.
getting about a husband. Because everybody loved me in my church and the churches that I went to.
Right.
So they
wanted
would
to see you flourish
Yeah,
and
they
have-
wanted
yeah.
to see the best for me.
Of
And
course.
I totally understood that. So I kind of disregarded those messages, but they had become more frequent right when he was entering my life.
Gotcha.
But I had told God, I said, you know, you have to be crystal clear. And his ex-girlfriend called me up when I was like literally blocking him from every channel,
Yeah.
you know? And because I was like, see.
Mind you, I
'cause
didn't tell her to
know.
do this.
Oh my
Yeah.
God.
So
I didn't have any
he was
communication
my
with this
friend.
woman.
Yeah,
He was
yeah.
my friend. You know, you got to remember, he was my friend.
Yeah,
So it
yeah.
wasn't like I did not know him.
Right.
I knew
You
him.
knew him well.
I knew his past.
You knew of him, yeah.
I knew of all the women that he dated.
Yeah.
I knew these stories. So I was like, yeah, right. Like God would bring, you know? And so she called me up and she's a God-fearing woman, but I knew that she was still in love with him.
Okay.
And so she called me up and she said, hey, I don't know if you're rejecting his friendship, but God, I was praying and God told me to tell you that you need to be his friend.
Oh, wow.
And that to me was like, because she would never, ever,
that, yeah.
you know, like anything that would threaten the possibility of her getting him back.
Yeah.
She would never do that.
Gotcha.
So I immediately picked up the phone and I'm like, you're not going to believe this. And I told him, and like, I called him up from work. And when I got out of work at 5 o'clock, he was on the motorcycle right
Waiting.
in front of my job.
Hey, they said he was around the corner.
It was like,
They said he was around the corner.
he was right there waiting. So I knew. I actually did not know, not for a little while. Like I just knew that it was okay to be friends. But then over time, I mean, and actually happened pretty quickly though, because we started dating and he asked me to be his girlfriend on May 20th on December, that Christmas, that year. He had already gotten the ring and we had gotten engaged that year and I said yes. But in the first year of marriage, that was the hardest few months. But it was like right after, like the wedding was spectacular, honeymoon spectacular.
Nice.
1 month later, it was like, oh no.
Disaster.
Because we were learning each other
Yeah.
and
It was a lot.
What were some of the challenges like early on?
I think a lot of challenges had to do with me.
Okay.
Like transitioning from my lifestyle.
Yeah. To
To a lifestyle of marriage.
Yeah.
I feel like this is a good time to throw a disclaimer out.
sure, go for it.
No, I'm sorry, but there's a lot of people that listen to this story, and they're like, and people see life through their window.
Yeah.
So they're listening to the story, and they're going, oh, see, my boyfriend, I know it doesn't seem like he doesn't care, and he doesn't have a job, and he lives on my couch, but look, if it worked for... Listen. I'm sorry to say, this does not
validate the situation.
This works here because of God-centeredness. Like, I really, really, really feel that God had a hand in this. Just put that into perspective in your own life.
Hey, you never know. This could be the sign that they've been looking for.
Well, listen, let's put everything into perspective and make a decision on your own.
Well,
but that was my disclaimer.
Yeah, well, let's put things into perspective. Joey never was a lazy guy. He was never, he was always it's strong work ethic.
Okay.
He was also a single dad, and he was the one raising his daughter.
Gotcha.
And that to me was big.
Yeah.
I was like, he didn't abandon his kid.
Yeah.
He actually picked up all the responsibility.
Nice.
And was still helping her mother, find whatever she needed in regards to her healing.
Okay.
So he was very kind to his ex. Exceptional father. He worked very hard. He was never lazy. So it wasn't like that. I don't want anybody to think that disclaimer thinks that you were like this guy on the couch. He was never any of those things.
Right.
Plus, when we were dating, I remember one day, and this was key for me. One day he said, I have to stop at my brother's house to go walk the dogs.
Wow.
And I was like, oh, okay. And so we stopped at the house, and he went to go take out the dogs, but he said, I got to take out one at a time because one's kind, one is kind of vicious.
Okay.
And I was standing right in front of the porch. And we took one dog out, walked him around the block, came back, and he was like, I'm going to go get the other one now. But when that one came out, that one saw me. And we
should put a PETA disclaimer, right?
I don't know. No, but they're two big, strong pit bulls. Two big pit bulls, right? But the one that it was definitely a vicious dog.
It was an aggressive dog.
It was an aggressive dog, aggressive. Let me choose my words carefully. It was a very aggressive dog, and I was the stranger. And I was on the property.
Oh, okay. So he was protecting the property.
He was protecting the property. But this dog jumped off of the porch and literally was up in the air in full attack mode, coming for me.
Wow.
And I just went like this, and when I turned around, Joey must have jumped off the porch to grab the dog by the hind legs, and they were in this wrestling match on the ground where he's trying to submit this dog, into submission, holding this dog down.
Yeah.
And he finally got the dog to submit, and he brought the dog into the house.
Yeah.
And then was like, get off the property. And I was like, I went outside. But I remember sitting in the car thinking, I have never saw anyone in my life go the extra mile to save my life.
Wow.
Which was a big deal from someone who has never felt safe ever before.
Wow.
So when I tell you the measure of safety he brought into my life that I had never felt before, it was a huge, huge deal.
So would you say that moment solidified it for you? That's still the deal.
I tell everybody, I'm like, listen, that man wrestled a pit bull for me.
Yeah, exactly. What did yours do for you? That's awesome.
Yeah, no.
So, Joey, did you have any kinds of expectation going into the marriage of what life with someone of her experience would be?
That being said, I can't really say that there's like everyone's like, my life would be great except for this part. And I contribute this part of why it's not great to the abuse.
Yeah.
it was many years from the abuse to when we got together.
Okay.
And she really had that life, had the reactions under control. I mean, sometimes you see a kink in the armor once in a while, like because she doesn't even allow herself to be a what's the word? Like to allow that to affect me. She's very conscious of me.
Okay.
You know what I mean? And sometimes to the detriment of herself. You know, she's very giving. She's very, you know, she wants the best for me. She wants to take care of me. She has that nurturing, you know, character about herself. You know what I mean? So
Thank you.
they're not. I can't say I can point to things that, you know, are big problems in our life that are due to that.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Gotcha.
It's you know, it still affects her.
Yeah.
It still affects her, but it's affected her since then. So she's still a work in progress. She's still under construction, but for the most part, she's got it. From what I understand.
Yeah,
From what I see.
Yeah, by the time him and I started dating, I had already done a lot of work.
A lot of work, yeah.
A lot of
That
work.
helped.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I had already gone through like the whole forgiveness process, healing, and even discipleship. You know, but by the time I just knew that when I got married, I wasn't gonna make someone pay for what someone else did.
Yeah.
And so that was kind of my mindset. It's still my mindset. It is still very much my mindset.
Yeah.
Like sometimes, like even like so when our first granddaughter was born, you know, like then comes the you know, like changing diapers and stuff like that. So now that comes into play.
Yeah.
And so every milestone we hit in our relationship, there's always something that brings me
you back.
back
Yeah.
to that moment.
Yeah.
You know, because when I remember when I was single, I was like, I was a single mom, and I was like, I don't want anybody, like when my kids grow up, then now I'll consider at that point, because I don't want anybody coming in and disrupting my family.
Okay.
You know, like I can't risk. I have a daughter, I have a son, and I want to make sure that my son turns out to be a God-fearing man, and I don't want, you know, like because boys are always looking at whatever mom likes is what I want to be like, what I aspire to. And then, you know, of course, the security with my daughter, there's all these questions that go into play when you're this woman who has experienced some type of abuse, right? So now my kids are older and I'm feeling like it's safe, but now my daughter becomes a mom.
Right.
And now we have a granddaughter. And so, of course, all of the issues surface back up. So it's always kind of going in waves. I don't think I'll ever get rid of it. But what was nice was this time, you know, with my granddaughter as she got older, and seeing that her favorite person was him and not me.
Yeah.
I don't know how that happened. But she always felt safe with him. And I understood that she felt safe with him. But even with that, I was just like, hey, could you not change diapers? And he was like, oh yeah, no, absolutely.
Sure, yeah.
You know, but they were, and that was just, and I don't know why. And a lot of people have a problem with that because they're like, well, if you trust him. And I was like, I just, you know what? That's just my trauma.
Right.
It's just my trauma.
But I mean,
you know, like,
we say that it's her trauma, but so she deals with that through her experiences, right? Now, I didn't go through a sexual assault in my, you know, I didn't. My childhood wasn't like that,
Right.
But statistically, I worry about, you know, what is it? Like 5 and 6, I think, or whatever the statistic is.
It's an alarming number.
Yeah, it is. It is incredibly high.
We should probably Google it.
Yeah, It is an incredibly high statistic. So, you know, I look at my grandkids growing up, and I worry about everyone that's in their life, teachers, caretakers, you know, just anybody and everyone, because you hear these horrific stories.
Right.
So she looks at it and she comes to the same conclusion conclusion as I do, but she comes through it through her experiences.
Right.
Yeah.
But you can't.
And I think, and what's made me more comfortable over time, because again, like, new things come up,
Yeah.
new issues come up,
Yeah.
and then so when we had our first granddaughter, like, there were certain things that I was like, how do I navigate this?
Navigate
But
through that,
then when I saw how concerned he was, and he was like, how do we make sure that, you know, that she retains her innocence as long as possible? And he went into this full protective mode of
Yeah.
my granddaughter
Yeah.
that gave me this sense of security that I needed.
Nice.
And so he was without knowing, he was bringing forth another layer of healing for me that I needed.
That's awesome.
Because, you know, first he gave me that safety.
Yeah.
And then the issues came up and I was like, don't change any diapers, you know, and don't do this and don't do that.
Yeah.
But then when I saw his protective nature come in, and he was a lot more passionate and especially a lot more aggressive.
Yeah.
In regards to protecting the grandchildren, you know, because then we had another granddaughter,
Right.
and another granddaughter,
Right.
you know. So he was like, "How do you?" And then he's the one making the questions, like, "Hey, let's not forget this because it happens in this environment. It's always family, like it's always." And he's like spitting out the facts of my life, like, "Hey, we can't have this repeat."
Right. Right.
You know, which is what I needed
Yeah.
my whole life, you know. So then he brought this layer of healing into my life.
That's awesome.
And I just think that marriage in itself, and I know it gets a bad rap,
Yeah.
but it is such an intimate relationship, right? And everything that, like, when you think about God, and God wants to have this intimate relationship with you, right? And he uses marriage as that,
As an example. Yeah.
all the time.
Yeah.
All the time. And so a lot of the lessons that I have gotten that are like the most major hurdle lessons, like, of healing, have come through a relationship, and especially with Joey. Like,
Yeah.
it's always been through my marriage
That's awesome.
that he has brought forth this other, like, learning experience of, okay, I need to bring you to the next level here because
Yeah.
I need you to see that this is possible, but this is not possible alone.
Gotcha. So Joey, when Zybel talked about or asked you not to change diapers, well, how did you feel about that?
Overjoyed. No, you know, when I say she was healed by the time that I met her, I mean, there's still things, and there's going to be things, like I said before, every time you make a reaction, you always have to think back, well, if that never happened, would I be reacting in this way? So until, you know, for the rest of her life, obviously there's going to be stuff that comes up, you know, because of the history. You know, we are a what is it? A accumulation of our experiences.
Right.
So she will be, like, for instance, when she was writing the book, that was a very emotional time for her, and you know, so to get home and to see her weeping in front of the computer, this is not a normal thing in our house. You know what I mean? So that was a big transitioning phase in her life. You know what I mean? And I know she did some therapy around that time as well. And again, things that, you know, so it's a process. So when she asked me not to, totally understood. You know, totally understood. And whatever I can do to help facilitate more healing, help facilitate more comfort, you know what I mean? Things like that, I am all about that. You know what I mean? I want her to have that healing, because it doesn't just affect her, because trauma is transferred. You know, we hear it all the time. You know, you transfer your trauma. You know, and it's what's the saying that people say? The
What you don't heal from, you transfer.
What you don't heal from, you transfer. So in her bettering herself,
Yeah.
in her dealing with her past experiences, and healing from them, I feel like the next generation and the generation behind that will benefit from all of that healing. You know what I mean?
Right.
But I think the one big step in doing that, and tell me if I'm wrong, is the forgiveness phase. You know, once you forgive, it's more for you.
Right.
You know, forgiveness is not to eradicate the guilt of what happened. There's still consequences to anybody. Like, no one can do something and not have to deal with that.
Right.
Not have to deal with the
Yeah.
consequences of something they did negatively.
Right.
You know, so forgiveness doesn't erase what was done. Doesn't erase the consequences that happened to that person. You know, that person, there's still something called justice. You know, and justice is an equalizer. You do something wrong,
Yeah.
right? And justice now has to bring harmony.
Right.
You know? So there has to be some type of correction. So when we speak about forgiveness, we're speaking about forgiveness that benefits the person.
Right.
You know what I mean?
You know, that's funny because I'm so glad that you brought that up, because when we left the podcast the last time,
Yeah.
and like we went home and I was just so like I was on a high, and then I felt so beaten up by one simple question that he posed. And he was like, no, it was great, you talked a lot about forgiveness, but you know there's gonna be that one mom out there that her child was molested and she's gonna send it to her kid, like, see, just forgive him,
Yeah.
so we can move on.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
and I was
Yeah.
like, oh snap.
Yeah.
Like, that's not what I meant.
Yeah.
You know, like like it doesn't exempt them from paying
Yeah.
consequences.
Exactly.
There's still consequences to
Yeah.
be paid. And like one of the things that I talk about in the book was that there was this one particular time where I encountered a little girl at the camp that I was working at, and she came out and she told everyone that she was being sexually abused at home. And I went home with her. I confronted her mom with her by my side.
Right.
And the mom's response was, well, it's okay. It happened to me. I got over it.
Oh, wow.
And so she'll get over it. And
Wow.
I was just like, and I had a friend with me, because this is my story, right?
Yeah.
So every part of me wanted to pounce this mom and knock her out, you know? And I was just like, what's wrong with you, you know?
Yeah.
And so my friend was like, maybe you should step outside at this point, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah.
And so now I had to shift my whole perspective around just giving this little girl the affirmations that she needed in that moment, you know, and giving her the love and the support that she needed in that very difficult time where she was coming out with this truth. But we walked that process. I mean, obviously, the man was not sorry for what he did. He was not. Like, there's a difference. I mean, what happened to me and what happened to her, there's different circumstances for everyone.
Right.
Now, the restorative and beautiful story that I have is not going to be the story that everybody has.
Right. Yeah.
But I had someone who was sorry, you know, and so there was this restorative picture. There were two people who were just on, like, there were words unsaid, but there was a playing field that we were all on.
Right.
But then there's going to be this situation where this person is not sorry for what they did.
Yeah.
And they're going to deny it through their teeth that they ever did anything. And of course, I walked her through on pressing charges. I mean, there was another circumstance where I met another little girl, and we all went to the courthouse, and we were by her side while, you know, she was pressing charges on her stepfather who had abused her. And again, unrepented. And even if he was sorry, you can still forgive someone and they still be incarcerated and be held accountable to a justice system that will help them stay accountable, right? Because if things go unsaid, things go hidden, you're not going to be the only victim.
Yeah.
And that's the other side to it. Are they sorry because they're trying to avoid the punishment, that's not sorry. You know what I mean? Are you, you're saying a million sorries because you're trying to avoid the justice? You know what I mean? For someone to be repented at heart,
Right.
you know what I mean? They have to accept the justice. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But for themselves,
Right.
you know what I mean? If someone does something and they're asking for forgiveness to try to avoid the justice, then who does that help? And someone needs to hold that person accountable.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because he's saying sorry 5 years, 10 years, 15 years down the line. If he does that to somebody else, the person that could have fought for justice at that point, are they going to feel the responsibility of that? So that's why I say forgiveness is for you. It's not to forget what happened, pretend it never happened, and then in the future, if he does it again, wipe your hands of it.
Right.
That's not what we're saying.
I forgive them. So
that's definitely not what we're saying. We want to protect the innocents. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That we want to give voice to the ones
voiceless.
that are voiceless.
Yeah.
So at no point are we saying, not to look for that.
Right.
We're saying healing is one of a major step and milestones to changing the course of your kids, your grandkids. She spoke about the test of the mice. The mice, they sprayed the lavender scent and electrocuted them at the same time. So in their brains,
It's programmed.
Yeah,
it's programmed.
brain program,
So,
yeah.
but what they didn't expect is they stopped doing that. Those mice had babies, and then they would spray the lavender, no electric shock, but they still had the reaction.
Wow.
They had the fear embedded in them.
Yeah.
You know what I
That
mean?
story's in the book. Yeah.
So this is what I'm saying. So that forgiveness, that forgiveness is for the victim.
It's the reset.
It's the reset. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
it's not only the victim, but it's the you're healing the family. You know what I mean? And then and hopefully, because mind you, for every damaged person that's damaging the next person, and then they're damaging the next person. So one person is damaged. They damage their kids, however many kids they have. Those kids have kids, and they're damaging kids.
Yeah.
And then at some point, you have to break the chain.
Break the cycle.
You have to break the cycle.
Yeah.
Because the same way that you're multiplying that damage, if you forgive, now you're having kids and they're raised right.
Yeah.
And those kids are now having their kids, and their kids are now raised right. So we have to, at some point, as a society, we have to recognize that, because, side note, laws aren't made to fix problems, they're deterrents. So back to the whole justice portion of it, we need stronger laws, because slapping the hands aren't, these guys are doing horrific things, and the burden of proof is on the victim. The burden of proof is on the victim.
Yeah.
And a lot of times they're expected to be held at this high standard where, college experiences, so was it 4 or 5 drinks? That's
Yeah.
that's the farthest thing from your brain at that point.
It's like you've already been traumatized.
And you're being
now
traumatized again.
To go through the justice system, you're further traumatized all over again.
Yeah.
Because now they're questioning, did you provoke it?
Yeah.
Did you do something? Are you just mad at this person and that's why you're making that accusation? Which was a lot of the questions that we were faced with when I was helping this little girl.
Report it. Yeah.
And I was just like, you got to be kidding me.
Yeah.
Like, why would she lie about it?
Right.
And the cops were like, well, because kids get angry. And I was like, wow.
And there's something you said earlier too, and I think in the past episode you said, hurt people, right? So a lot of times it's like there is a hurt that happened in their childhood or in their experience, and then they carrying that over. And unfortunately, as you said, it's like it gets multiplied because they're hurt and it hasn't been dealt with or been fixed. So now they're figuring that it's the only way forward, right? That's what they know, But I want to take it back to a comment that you made earlier when you said, you would come home, you would find her crying over the computer because she's writing the book. So I want to tap into your experience a little bit. What was that like for you, just seeing her just, deciding to put the story into a book? What was that process like?
Well, the first time that she expressed the desire to do that, I was all for it. I was like her biggest fan at that point. I'm like, yes, that sounds fantastic. Let's I got behind it 110%. And mind you, I didn't know that I'd be coming home and she'd be crying, but that is a small price to pay for, and correct me if I'm wrong, that book leapfrogged your healing.
Yeah.
But mind you, at the same time, I'm sorry, give me just to let this out. At the same time, unfortunately, her bringing that story forward brought more victims out of the dark.
Oh wow!
So that was
that
was a big thing. But I don't know if you want to speak on that. But I feel like
that was like another hurdle that I had to leap over because the amount of people who came forward and said that they knew.
Wow.
And then it was like, well, you're going to tell me that you knew and you didn't like...
You didn't do anything? You didn't say anything?
Or so there was the people who knew, and then there were the people who were much older than me who were victimized by my dad. And so they were victims of my dad, and they were older than me.
So the victimization happened, some of them before she was born.
Wow. So I was like, so this was a habit with my dad. Like he was really like really victimizing a lot of people, and the thing, and like one of the ladies I know, she went to her grave never saying anything. And to me that's kind of like the scary notion, right? But there was also so many learning lessons in that, and that was a really hard learning lesson to grapple with, because it was first when I was at the computer and I was writing the book. You have to remember, when he walked in, I was writing the chapter about finding coming home and my dad was gone. And I was writing the book at the keyboard in the room where he passed away.
Wow.
So that was like really, really tough. And then, and so it was like this emotional roller coaster that I was going on. And even that has started to affect us because like at that point I was like, don't hug me, don't do it. Like I just need to go to bed, like I just need to go to bed. And so it and he was so gracious with me, and he took time with it. But then when all the people started to come out and share their stories, and like one person at the book launch actually gave me a note in my hand and was like, hey, this is what happened. It was a graphic note.
Wow.
Super graphic of what my dad did to her. And I was coming off this high of celebrating the book launch, and then I was like,
wow.
And then I didn't know where to put myself in that place. But the thing that I grappled with the most, what I struggled with the most, was all these people before me, all these people who knew, no one did nothing. And I grew up in the church. You know?
Yeah.
Like, you would think that the people of the church would be the first ones to advocate for justice and to address the sin.
Yeah.
And instead, people were trying to, there were rumors on how to protect their children. And the person who got hurt the most was my mom, because then she had to learn from people that she loved and admired and were her friends, that they had known all along, and they never said anything to her. And that was really, really difficult to navigate. But the healing was literally by myself in my home. And I was just like in my Bible, and just kind of just sitting there and just kind of like going through all the thoughts. And I was really spiraling out of control, and I was becoming very angry. And someone would actually label that church hurt, right? But I remember having a conversation with my pastor after, and because I was having a hard time. You know, I was really mad at everyone.
Yeah.
And a lot of these people are like, the people I'm mad at are like the children of the people who did it. You know? So I was like, I'm mad at you because you're related.
Yeah.
You know, but I was becoming very angry. And then that anger just spread and consumed an entire congregation who had nothing to do with it.
Yeah.
And this is all church hurt, right?
Right.
And so I'm sitting down with my pastor, and he said something in one moment of our conversation. He was like, you do know that you are the church, right? And for some reason, it just kind of like, it hit me. And then I went home and was just, ruminating on that thought, like over and over and over and over. And I was just like, oh my gosh. And then it hit me like, yo, it took you forever to come out with the truth.
Yeah.
Like, you didn't tell anybody. How many other people after you?
Yeah.
And you have no grace for these people who did not know how to handle the situation.
Right.
Like, how hard must it have been to know a family that you absolutely love in the church, and then hear a rumor and be like, well, is it a rumor? Do we go and tell them that this is being said?
Yeah.
Or like, could it destroy their marriage? Could it destroy, like, this is a very heavy accusation to make.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
You know? And so at that point, I'm like, oh my gosh. And then again, had to practice forgiveness all over again. And not practice, do forgiveness and do it over and over and over again, until like I came to a place of being set free from it. But it really does put you in a very difficult place when you start that spiraling, when you start thinking about how your life could have been so much different if someone had said something.
Right.
But then when I think about the time frame where I came out with the truth, there's a possibility that there could be someone younger than me, and then how am I going to grasp? Like, I potentially played a part in destroying this kid's life.
Yeah.
And so now I don't even know how to navigate that kind of a thing. But one of the things that I tell everyone, especially like the people in the church, I'm like, listen, if you hear something, you do need to say something.
Yeah.
You do need to say something, because you don't know who's at risk.
Yeah.
It is better that people would just be angry with you over the accusation, and that you find out that it's a lie, than to find out 20 years later that somebody, like unalived themselves because they were dealing with this type of situation.
Yeah.
And what hurts me the most is the people who went to their graves holding on to this. Like, you have to stand before God.
Yeah.
And you have to give an account for what you did and what you did not do. And then also, I worry, did they forgive?
Yeah.
And maybe they did, and just never like had the conversation. Me, in my situation, I confronted, but there's other people. Like this past weekend, we were all sitting in a room, and we had a retreat, and there was an exercise that we did where we had to talk about the hurts that we have from our parents. And then we had this exercise where we sat from each other, and we had to stand in as the parent of that person. And they had to express themselves. And it's a beautiful exercise, right? Because you're not going to get this parent who's going to defend themselves and fight back or anything like that.
Yeah.
But they get to express their heart on how they were hurt. But now, how now there's this beautiful prayer, like, I forgive you for
Yeah.
all these things.
And they're able to move forward.
And they're able to move forward. And like one of the things is, like, sometimes people don't have their parent there to have that conversation with because they've passed away. So
Yeah.
that exercise was extremely healing for them,
Nice.
you know? But yeah.
I mean, I think that the other side to that is years ago when we were younger, and correct me if I'm wrong, but there was a stigma, you know, where there you kind of heard that things were happening,
Yeah.
but no one talked about it openly.
Yeah.
Years ago when I was a kid, you'd watch that person, but no one talked about it openly. No one now, fast forward, I think people are talking about it more, which is fantastic. I mean, we should out everybody. You know, this should be a talking point. You should take the stigma out of it. You know what I mean? So years ago, the people that didn't say, it was a different culture. It was a different atmosphere back then. You know what I mean?
There's so much shame attached.
There was so much shame, attached to it. So now we're part of correcting that and saying, you know what, take the shame out of it. You know, it's not. Victims have this. And I hear about it a lot, especially in younger victims. They feel like they played a part in it. Like they had some type of control in that situation, and they blamed themselves. You know, I didn't say anything for so long, and then after it happened for so long, then I couldn't say anything because it happened for that long.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So and everything benefits the perpetrator of the crime. You know what I mean? They have groomed society, let alone they're grooming these kids, but they have groomed society in a way that they can perpetuate this problem.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It seems like the judicial system, it's just re-victimizing the victims.
Over again,
if you look at the statistics of how many people actually go to jail and the time frame that they go to jail, there's no deterrent.
Right.
There is no deterrent for these people to not do what they do, because they get slapped in the hand and continue doing what they do. So, for one, take the stigma out of it.
Yeah.
You know?
Overall, I mean, when it comes to the life, the marriage life after sexual abuse, I could, proudly say you guys are 10 years in. You guys are looking amazing. You sound amazing. The love is there. We could see it. We could, we could feel it. What would you say to the people out there, who's, let's say, a woman who's gone through something similar and think that, well, you know what, then I don't think I can ever love, or I don't think I can ever, endure a romantic relationship or a marriage of some sort. What would you say to them?
Well, it's definitely totally possible. You can have a very successful marriage and relationship after something like that horrific happens to you. I think the key, and I'm always going to give credit to God, because Joey is a God-fearing man. I serve the Lord wholeheartedly. We did the hard work together in regards to full transparency, which is very key in a relationship, but also, loving each other. Like I'm approaching my relationship with Joey like I don't want to make him pay for my past.
Right.
And he's approaching the relationship with me like I'm trying to love him the best that I can. He's trying to love me the best that he can. And he's aware of my triggers. And I don't expect him to dance around them.
Right.
But it's kind of like, when you get married with somebody, that cheating on them is going to hurt them, right? So you're not going to cheat on them. So he knows that there's certain things that are going to hurt me or trigger me. We've had situations come up where we've encountered some type of trauma amongst like friends or outsiders or, you know, like people within our circle that have brought forth a story that is similar to mine, and he knows that that's going to hurt me, you know, based on what's happening in that particular situation. And he does everything he can to safeguard me.
Right.
You know, I
Nice.
don't expect for him to safeguard me, but that's in his nature as a protector, as the man of the household to do so. But my job is to do a lot of introspection. And if there's something that hurts me, I can't expect Joey to fix it for me.
Yeah.
I have to go to God to it. I have to work really hard on it. I have to do the therapy on it. I have to really do all the hard questions. And that's kind of a thing. Like, pride is going to be a really big issue, right? So if you're battling with pride and you're a prideful person, it's just like that's the number one you got to fix.
Yeah.
Because you have to swallow your pride and you have to admit that you could be the problem, you know?
Yeah.
And that's a hard pill because, you know, being the victim of such trauma, you want the whole world to dance around you.
Absolutely.
You know, like, because you feel like they owe you.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I don't feel like anybody owes me, you know?
Right.
I feel like I want to do my best to live this life and help other people recover from it. I don't want people dancing around my trauma or my triggers. And I think I've gotten to a point where I can be in the room and I can hear stories and I'm not triggered, I'm not traumatized. But that's because I've done the hard work with the forgiveness. But at the end of the day, that all comes from my time with the Lord.
Awesome.
My time with God. I mean, like, I can credit a lot of healing to what God did through Joey. But ultimately, at the end of the day, it is through Joey. And it is possible for you to have a very healthy relationship.
Yeah.
But in order to have that healthy relationship, you need to do the healing. Like, once you're healed, you can... Because it's like you're traumatized, right? So now you're hurting all the people around you because you're trying to navigate these traumas and triggers, right?
Yeah.
But when you're healed, you can love people properly.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you know, there was one thing Joey said earlier. Like he was happy and proud when he hears you talk because he could see the level of accountability that you have taken, right? Because there are times when things happen, you know, you do that introspect, right, to see whether or not, hey, am I responding to this the right way, or was it my fault, or was it not necessarily was it your fault, but was it the way that I responded to that's causing this? So I think, you know, that also is important. And you know, you talked about transparency. I think that's another aspect of it as well.
Community is a big factor.
Awesome.
Because there are times where we can get so heated in our own self-defense that if we have a safe place, you know, and we have like our marriage ministry team and we have our church, obviously, but I can go to someone and say, hey, do you think I'm overreacting on this? Do you think, you know, like, and they're very honest because they love me and they're like, hey, yes, you are. You are really, really going overboard on this.
So if I can add something.
Sure, go ahead.
I think what really works is in not to be selfish to the point where my focus is on uplifting her, supporting her. I'm not necessarily watching my back. You know, I'm making sure that she's fine.
Right.
And he doesn't have to watch his back. I got his back.
Oh boy.
Exactly. She's taking care of me above her. I'm taking care of her above me.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Taking yourself out of it and just boosting the other person.
Right.
There was an example. I read something somewhere where this guy was in some type of spiritual environment. He opens the door and it was an example of hell where there was a table full of food, like the best food ever, right? And all the people sitting at the table, they had these long spoons that were tied to their hands. So they couldn't use their hands. They had these long spoons, right? So they could get the food, but they couldn't put the food to their mouth
because the spoon is too
because
long.
It was too big.
Yeah.
And they were all skinny and feeble. And that was the example of hell, right? So the guy was brought to another door and he opens the door up. And in that door, it was the same circumstance. The food was fantastic, and everybody had these spoons tied to their hands. But so they were under the same circumstance, but they were feeding each other.
Yeah, yeah.
And that was heaven. That was the example of heaven. You know, doing for somebody else.
Yeah.
And I think in our circumstance, I want the best for her. I sacrifice for the best for her.
Yeah.
And the
I
thing
do the
is,
same.
I'm never in want because she does the same for me. I got her back. She's got my back.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that is very key in why this works.
But again,
So-
it's a biblical principle.
Right.
and but the thing is, they say what is it, the man is the head and the woman is submissive.
Yeah, yeah.
The word that they use isn't submissive like a slave, it's submissive like a soldier. It is
That's right. I'm just ride or die.
So so in essence, she's that other person.
Right.
You know, we attack life together.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So those guys that are reading into that verse and saying you have to be submissive, you have to worship the ground that I want.
Because I'm the prize.
Because I'm the prize. I think it's you're not getting the right thing out of that verse.
Yeah.
And you're setting your marriage up for failure. I mean, it might work in a very, very small percentage, but for one, it wouldn't work here.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I don't want to speak for everybody, but it wouldn't work here. And it's funny, we talk about it. If we got together right out of high school,
Oh, it would have been disastrous.
it would have been disastrous.
Chaos,
because
yeah.
I certainly wasn't ready.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
All those years later, God knew the timing. You know,
Yeah.
God worked on us. God is constantly working on us. I'm
Yeah.
still a work in progress. You know what I
Amen.
mean?
Amen.
I am not perfect, nowhere near perfect. But you
Yeah.
know what? But even in my imperfection, I think it works to my benefit because I appreciate. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because I don't feel like I deserve. You know, I come from and I just in my outlook in life, I think that helps out. Because I mean, from coming from the wrong side of the tracks, getting so many things wrong, I don't feel like I'm in a deserving state.
Yeah.
So everything that God does for me, you know, I have the utmost appreciation. So this is a biblical marriage. This is a, you know, and so God gave me this woman, and
Awesome.
I appreciate it. You know, I step up to that responsibility because God gave me this. You know what I mean?
That is awesome. I think that's a great way to end it. Well, I can't follow that up. So you know what? Overall, it's it's great to see how God is moving in your marriage. You know, in spite of the challenges in the beginning, right? But you guys have overcame all of them, and you guys still working through life together, right? Because life overall is going to be challenging at times. So,
Yeah.
but you guys, the one thing that is important is you are centered on. This is a Christ-centered marriage, right? So, I have no doubt that whatever comes your way, you guys are going to find a way to deal with it with God's help. So, again, thank you for sharing your story. It is inspiring, not just your story, Zybel, but the story of the two of you as a married couple after her experience. And that's why I thought the focus of the episode would be the marriage life after sexual abuse is very fitting. Because some people, as I said, some people out there who've gone through certain situations, they may think, well, I can never see myself get married again. I can never see myself having a successful marriage or a successful romantic relationship because what I've been through. But listening to your story, seeing how you guys interact with each other after 10 years, I think this is going to be very reassuring. It's going to, speak hope into people's life today. So thank you so much for being so vulnerable to give us a sneak peek at your marriage life. So we appreciate it. Thank you so much for being here, guys.
Thank you for having us.
My pleasure.
Thank you very much.
Well, guys, listen. Sexual abuse is not something that is easy to process. It's not something that is easy to deal with, but we just want to let you know that there is hope. There is hope. There is a way to cope with it. As I mentioned before, if you need help, if you need someone to speak to, feel free to reach out to Zybel. Zybel is a coach. She's a director of one of the programs that helps people deal with stuff like that. So she'll be more than happy to have a conversation with you to help you navigate through the challenges. And also, don't forget, you can always go to God. And in order for you to move past it, in order for you to move forward, you're going to need help. It's going to be supernatural help, and that can only come from God. So you need to find a biblically centered church, and find a community that's going to keep you grounded, that's going to help you to focus on God in order for you to move forward with that. And one more key thing she spoke about, even in the last episode, is the power of forgiveness. The power of forgiveness. True healing begins when forgiveness is fully in effect. So as you move forward, I encourage you to think about that. I know it's not going to be an easy process. It's not going to be an easy thing to do, but I know with God, everything is possible. Thanks again for checking us out. We appreciate it. Don't forget, feel free to send this link to someone who's going to find it beneficial, who's going to find it helpful. And remember to continue to tune in every Wednesday for more episodes on the 2.0 show. So remember, live every day as if it is your last day, because one day it will be. I'm JR. Thanks for watching 2.0. I'll see you next time.